in terms of posting on social media at all. I'm not a good poster in general. I barely post pictures of my kids, much less for business. But obviously, I think it can be effective. I know there's, a lot of people in our industry who've gained following through good content, and have also, I'm sure, gained clients through it as well. Um, I have done some like more video stuff for like at like the client level where, as an example, we added Roth to one of our bigger plans recently. They didn't have it before. I made like a little 2-3 minute video explaining what Roth is and, had a chart or two about, tax deferred saving versus after tax, et cetera. So I've done some stuff like that, and that seems to be well received, but that's really kind of specifically at the client level, and haven't kind of put it out there for the broader public. But if anyone does that, I'd love to hear what's been successful for you.
I think our most successful like social media marketing post has always been around an event. Like we did one recently where Ryan was speaking on ESOPs and took a picture of him up on stage and create some content around them. We ended up actually having a couple people reach out because they saw it on there. So I think those are always really good, like live events and there, and then just like filter it in with like just blog posts and everything we create, which aren't as engaged as much as like the real life scenarios.
What do you post it? Do you send it out to clients? Do you post it on LinkedIn? Where do you?
I would say LinkedIn, any type of, award or anything like that that either of us or someone in the firm gets, we'll post out to clients, email, but mostly just LinkedIn, that kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
That seems like the only place we really get traction in the
Yeah.
corporate space, at least, because obviously, like the decision makers, those people, they're pretty active on that site specifically. So I mean, in terms of just like general content creation, I don't know that we've had a ton of success with that endeavor. Um, it seems to me, and everyone else has probably noticed, like the biggest or most influential people in the retirement plan space, like they post a lot, like pretty consistently, multiple times a day, unique content, a lot of like original content creation. And so I think for us, that's something we've always struggled with because it's just like it's time consuming and we're not a large enough we're not a large team to the extent like we have a marketing person in house that does all that for us. We're hiring people to do that. So um I don't know, it's been a challenge for us. Like the consistent content creation, you either have to like be very committed to it or have someone who's just like really good behind the scenes to stay on top of it. So it's been a challenge for us. I don't, those are the only things I've seen that have worked, at least from my perspective. Like those are the things that I digest the most is people that are posting pretty consistently and it's not, boilerplate, financial topics about, updating contribution limits or things like
Right.
that. Like it's
Yeah, those are the top. I mean, I might be just a cynic, but like, you log into LinkedIn, I'm connected to hundreds of other advisors, and you see the blanket post about it's clearly like through what do they call it?
FMG, yeah, FMG,
FMG.
yeah,
It comes through. It's
terrible.
yeah, and I'm just like it's cringy to me, but I mean, I'm sure part of that is that their clients are seeing them post, whether or not the content is any good, is there value to seeing them doing just doing anything, right? Their picture and firm name is popping up on the screen, and that's better than not being present at all. Um, but yeah, I agree. In the 401k world, and Josh Itzo, 401k lady, um, there's obviously others that, in the RIA space, you've got like all the Ritz Holtz guys with
yeah.
their stuff, and that stuff's really high quality. But they have like a full-on production company. I'm pretty sure that's like part of their firm and like full-time employees who run their social media accounts and help them with video and everything, right? And that's something that I don't have. So it's almost like, is it worth, unless it's going to be that good, is it worth doing anything, right? And that's kind of where I'm stuck. The guys that I work with, so I run the retirement side, you know, the owners of the firm do a weekly podcast, and they've like really committed to it. It's probably going on 2 years. They've probably done like almost 100 episodes. And it's hard to say if it's been worth it or not. I think they've done a really good job. They've committed to it. They're good at it. The content's good. Um, our clients definitely like it. I think there's, you know, current clients who listen to it and appreciate that they're experts and that they're somewhat entertaining and they're good at it. I don't know that it's led to one additional client, at least directly. Like I don't think anybody's like found the podcast, listened to it, and reached out and become a client. But I think for existing clients, it's been powerful to be able to have have that kind of show up on their phones every week. So anyway,
I think there's two kinds of marketing, right? There's brand awareness marketing, and then there's like client acquisition marketing. So I think there's two completely different strategies. I think the podcast and social media is really brand awareness. People see you kind of as an expert. I don't ever expect anybody to look at a post and say, I want to go talk to these guys. Where I think like the client acquisition marketing is more like the speaking engagements, the webinars, like reaching out to cold HR people, whoever it is, try to bring them into webinars. So I think there's like the brand awareness piece, and I think there's the actual client acquisition piece. And it's like two completely different strategies. And both are important, right? Because you want your clients to stay engaged and see materials, listen to podcasts. They like that and helps them talk about it. But I never really expect people to like look at a post or hear a podcast and say, hey, I want to go work with this firm. But,
yeah.
but the clients love it though. We've had clients say that they love it on our end, and it's just another value add content and kind of creation they're pushing out.
Yep. Yeah, it's almost like you got to block off a couple hours a week and just not schedule any meetings, and that's when you're going to work on that, and that's it, right? And it's almost like, is that, I just struggle, is it worth it? You know, I have
Use Chat GPT. Chat GPTs that we've been the one girl office is kind of handling all of it right now, but like we take ideas and put in like Chat GPT, and obviously you look for correction to everything, but it really puts out some really neat stuff. Saves a ton of time as well. Like kind of write your own little piece in there, like your thoughts, and say, hey, make this look like this, and it's kind of neat how it does it.
um the other topic was short term or short filing. I'm not sure if that was Nate or somebody else who had thrown that in there, but do you remember the thought process behind that topic?
I don't recall, to be honest.
Okay. There must be some sort of change coming to short forms
I
filing.
think there was more information available is the big change. Like there's more transparency or more visibility, like something along the lines of like record keepers and listing who's
Service
actually
providers have to be
who
listed.
the providers would be listed now as opposed to not like the current short form process. I think that was the big thing, but I don't recall if there was anything else.
Right. I mean, I think when it comes to mining 5,500 data, I think I've had a little success with that. I mean, I think to the extent that, like a struggling provider, like, I don't know, Nationwide's had struggles in the last couple of years, right, with some of their technology, and they've had some unhappy clients, I think. So, right. So if you can kind of run reports that show all the nationwide plans in your area, figure out kind of if you have connections at one of those places. I mean, I think cold outreach is pretty tough to get through, but what I've found, and I think you guys are both from your area, from what I can tell, like at least in New Orleans, everything's like connection based and referral based. And if you can if you run a list of 500 plans that you might want to work with that are within an hour, there's a pretty good chance that I have some sort of connection just from growing up or through family, friends, or whatever that I know somebody to reach out to at those companies. And so, as long as you do that in a respectful and not annoying way, you can at least glean some information or get to the right person. So that's been my strategy with 5500s in general. And if short forms are now opening up that becomes like a lot more powerful, I think, because and also on the flip side, it becomes a little scary that our firm name would be out there on every 5500 that we work with, right? Too. So there's going to be some defense that has to be played. Do y'all use Larkspur or any other 5500 tool?
We used to have Judy
Yeah.
Diamond, but we stopped.
We have the John Hancock's like portal,
Yeah.
so it's the same thing.
Yeah.
A lot of the providers now offer some light version of it, so it's kind of tough to like justify spending money on technology that, and we use some of it, but it's not, I mean, it's not accurate. Like we've had providers send us information from those databases for target lists. Like we focus pretty heavily on construction contractors. And so we've had some people like send us lists, and we end up seeing, like, we've had some where our current clients that we took on a year or 2 years ago show up on this list because it's old or outdated, and they're like, hey, they have issues with corrective distributions. I'm like, this is a current client of ours, and we know that that's not the case. So
Right.
it's not super reliable. Um, the same thing will be true with, I think, the 5500 data too. Like even in the large plan space, we've had issues with mining data there where like we went to a plan, um, we had an opportunity with like a pretty decent sized plan in our area that was direct sold at principal. And then we went and met with them, and they're like, oh no, we brought in Cap Trust to take over the plan like a year ago. And they were just a little behind on 5500 filings. So like
Mhm.
there was a lag there where, we kind of missed our opportunity, at least immediately. So I don't know. I don't think there's a perfect system. Like we've tried all of that. I don't really view that data becoming available as a threat. I think I mean, if anything, it's an opportunity in the small market space because that's heavily underserved. Like people don't, a lot of advisors that we come across in that space are private wealth, private client focused and have no expertise in institutional. And so you walk in the door and you ask all these questions, and the clients are like, I don't know, we have a 401k plan. There's a guy that handles it, and that's about it. So I feel like that'll be helpful for like people in this group, especially if you're looking to go to get more traction in that market, or, capture some, like we've captured some good growth opportunities in that space where, we had a couple startup government contracting companies that went from zero to pretty sizable plans in a very short period of time. So
Yep.
I feel like that's ultimately going to be the opportunity, but I don't know. We haven't found any technology that's, I would say, using existing publicly available data that's helped us like become more efficient in our prospecting efforts. It usually just gives us a name, and then we really have to still gather a lot of information and
Yep.
figure out what the pain points are, regardless of what those reports tell us. So
I tend to agree. I mean, I think basically the only time I log into Larkspur is when I have a lead, and then I can figure out, okay, how big is it? What can I glean from the 5500s to look at it? But other than that, I think, like you said, I mean, I think it's basically all our leads are going to be coming from referrals or personal networking. And so that's generally how this business has grown.
Are you doing any cold outreach that are you mostly kind of referrals and client?
I used to years ago when I first started. I did get a couple good clients from that. But I've slowed it down. I just haven't really kind of focused on it the last couple of years. But I mean, I think it can be effective, um, especially if you have a little bit of a hint on that you might be trouble. But I kind of first decided I didn't want to be this like name that showed up in every single person's inbox that was a spammer. And I mean, to each their own. I just felt like it's going to be easier to win business when there's a someone backing you, or you just have some sort of reputation, and it takes years to build, right? So if you're starting out, you don't have that, but um, that cold outreach has stopped on our end, and we've luckily at the moment have enough volume of incoming opportunities through referrals or through like what's happened a lot of times now is like I reached out 4 years ago to somebody and had a meeting and they didn't move forward, and then have kind of kept dripping on them for once, twice a year for the last few years. And all of a sudden the time was right. And so that's sort of been a good source lately, is just kind of going backwards in time and figuring out what opportunities were there that didn't work out and just revisiting.
Any of you guys used Zoom Info at all?
We had a payroll partner that he would send me stuff weekly. It seems like a neat system. I know it's really expensive, but I know he could like look and see who's signing 5,500s, if they've been searching for any type of change. I know it was really kind of good on the property and casualty side. So curious if you all had any success with it.
Been getting a little bit of it through like a principal wholesaler, like lists. Been actually considering getting a subscription myself. I've had some success actually connecting with people because they literally what they do is they pull your Zoom accounts and your emails associated with it, and then what you're Googling. So then when you're pulling it up, I mean, I've had a little bit of success. You don't really tell them, hey, I got this from a list that says you're looking for a financial advisor or you're looking for help on that, but you kind of know what they're Googling, so you kind of know what questions to ask. I mean, I've had a little bit of success on that, just trying it out, but I wanted to see if any of you guys have already used it extensively because, I want to see if it's worth my time, kind of deal.
So I did use it. I to give you some background. Like this was again a few years ago when we were doing the cold outreach. The value to me was, so we used it for 1 year. We did a 1 year stint and then decided not to renew. Um, as part of our package we had a certain number of like download credits or something. And so we were able to then export and download thousands of emails and phone numbers. And that data is pretty impressively good. I think it's as good as you're gonna get, I think. So that was a nice database of contact info basically to have. I think what you're talking about is intent, Zoom info intent, which is what they call the like buzz. If there's a someone who's been Googling 401k advisor, um, they would be they would have a high intent score for 401k advisor. I haven't had any success like reaching out to those people, but I do get like someone, like you said, a wholesaler sends me that list. But what I would question that I would question the data on that. I think, like you said, there's like several levels. And you know, the way I understand it is it's the intent score is at the business level. So like you could have had a secretary Google 401k advisor because she needed help with her 401k, and not the CFO who was probably who you're going after, thinking is the prospect. And then all of a sudden that business has a 95 intent score for 401k advisor. So I don't know. I didn't have any success with intent, which is what I think a lot of these wholesalers are pushing on people. But I mean, if you're looking for leads or looking for names and emails, I mean, you might as well take advantage of it, I would say.
I mean, to your point, I mean, one of them that I got from like a list, it showed like a client that we have here, right? And right around filing 5,500 and it was showing 401k advisors or top Google. But really, they probably were just trying to get to our site to then make a phone call or whatever, right? So that checks
Yeah,
out, right? And then I
yeah,
was like, oh, interesting
yeah,
how that kind of works, right? They're just trying to get at, maybe they were like, well, yeah, I remember their name, but I don't remember exactly their number or whatever. So they're going to our site to then get our information or something as it happens. So, you know, that kind of thing. So that was something that I just noticed. It was like a current client that's very happy. I was like, they're probably just going to our site for stuff,
right.
you know. So I guess it's not always perfect, but
No.
I was curious.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I would just say it was a good we got our money's worth in the sense that we got well, I don't know that we did. I mean, we spent a good amount of money for the 1 year. We got all this data out of it, and that data certainly came in handy at some points to get email addresses or phone numbers. Um, and I still have it, all right? It's in a spreadsheet. So I can always go back to the well. Um, But I think that system in general is more useful for like the transactional salesperson who's, um, you know, we have a good friend. I have a good friend who uses this at ZoomInfo a ton, and they sell like software basically. And so they're trying to sell software to businesses, and so it's just constant emails, and I just see our business as a little bit more relationship based, but I think. I think that's who Zoom Info is for, but I'm sure there's definitely use cases in our business to be able to use it.
Looking for the inside, I was very curious because I've been trying to consider maybe getting a license for a year or something. So helpful.
Yep. Um, as far as I guess I'm curious to see how are y'all how do you as 401k advisors, do you view the business as fairly cyclical in the sense that like a time of year is is more busy than others? I'm finding like these right now is insane with people just wrapping up year end, getting their max deferrals and just constant inbound stuff, and it's been a struggle to keep up. Whereas I think we get into the new year and get into like spring and it's pretty slow. Um, are y'all experiencing that same thing?
For client service, like you said, this time of year is absolutely nuts. I think for new client acquisitions, if I look back like our numbers at our firm, I think the first probably 3 or 4 months of the year have always been the most successful for us, which is kind of unique that time of year. But this time of year, client service is super busy. Then I think the first part of the year has been really good for new client acquisition.
Yeah. It makes
I would
sense. I think
say,
people get motivated at the beginning of the year. It's like a New Year's resolution. We're going to fix this year, right? And then
Yeah.
do it.
I would say on our firm, kind of goes like May, June, July, dead months. Nothing happens. And then it's, you know, August, September, really right around August or, mainly September, it ramps up. It turns into like people thinking, oh, I got to get this in before the end of the year. And then it's chaos, in November, December, because you're basically having to tell people, no, you already missed the one, the deadline for the safe harbor plans to put them in or et cetera. And then kind of tapers off right around tax season. That's kind of the hot seasons in my experience. And then dead in the summer, except for a couple takeover plans,
Hmm.
typically. I don't know if you guys have that experience, but that's been mine.
That was for us this year. Seems like that's kind of what we experienced. The summer came out of the gate pretty hot at the beginning of the year, and then had really not much of anything in the way of new opportunity happen
Yeah.
over the summer. Everything kind of stalled out, and then it picked back up. And we have a lot of stuff that's like going to be after the first of the year at this point, but some of it was just like conversions and other things, and we went through time frames, and people kind of waited too long, and we're like, you're not, if we start now, we can get it done for January 1st. Otherwise, like we're getting into the later in the first quarter of next year. So we have a lot of that going on where it's like stuff is done, but it's not done. We just are kind of taken over to facilitate a conversion. So um, uh, our business, I would say so far it's been cyclical, again, because we work a lot with construction and contracting too, like the months are there's a lot going on in terms of jobs and just like activity. So a lot of those companies just don't, some of them go through hiring waves. So in the beginning of that, we do a lot of work with enrollments and other stuff and just making sure that everything's working. And then we don't see them very much after that or have new opportunity. So I would agree with that. I think our business kind of ebbs and flows in that on that same schedule.
Do y'all do y'all try to schedule, like, I think you sort of touched on it, but like your review meetings with current clients? Are you doing that sort of? Do you have like certain clients who meet at the same time every year? Do you have a big rush beginning, end of each year? How do y'all sort of parse that out? Is it more just demand based on who wants to meet at certain times?
So originally we had it all over like certain months that we had it, and then some clients would be delayed schedule, whatever, so it got messed around. So now they're kind of spread out through the year, which I like better. Most of them do quarterly, some do semi-annually, and just so we use Redtail as a CRM. And then every time we meet with the client for that committee meeting, we just update the date in CRM and just schedule for 3 months later for
Nice.
reminder. And it's been really good for us. I think Redtail is really good in that space there, kind of for the reminders and everything. So helps us kind of stay on top of that.
Yep. We do the same thing with Redtail. I like Redtail a lot. We actually had an ill-fated attempt to use Salesforce 4 or 5 years ago. It's a disaster. We
You just have
came running back to Redtail.
Salesforce, I think could be better. We just haven't, I mean, we just never went down that path because you have to spend so much money and time and effort to build it the
Yeah.
way that it needs. Like, you almost have to not perfect it, but it has to be like in good order before you start using it. And everyone we talk to, like Josh is a good example. Like when he was at Greenspring, we were talking to him about retirement CRMs, and I think he's trying to kind of modify his system into becoming something like that. Um, but he's like, we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to get our sales force like up and running, ready, and then like functional.
I mean,
So,
all you
we're
need to
not in
know
a
is
position where we're spending that kind of money. I mean, Redtail off the shelf is much cheaper than that. So it has its shortcomings on the retirement plan side, but we we adapted.
Yeah, we've used like the UDFs in there to create custom fields, which kind of solved all that and kind of makes it workable on the retirement side.
feel like all you need to know about Salesforce is that there's an entire industry of Salesforce consultants. So
Yeah.
the system is so complex that and not intuitive that you have to then hire out other people to come in and show you how to do it and to fix it. So it's like for small firms, I think it makes very little sense, but
We use
they don't have red tail consultants out there.
We
that I
use
know.
Salesforce over here at One Digital, and I will tell you it is clunky to say the
Yeah.
I mean it tracks everything, but it feels clunky. I've definitely seen Salesforce is built out better, but I would say it makes it clunky.
I think if
Just
you could
gets
spend the money, yeah, if you could spend the money to build it and maintain it, like I feel like it's probably one of the best systems out there. But like, you know, the problem is the cost. And when you're not, our makeup as a firm in terms of like just like the financial commitment of that's money we could spend on a lot of other stuff to do other things, generate revenue, and the like. And so it doesn't like the cost versus the value that it provides for smaller firms just doesn't seem like it's there. But there's definitely a gap in the retirement plan industry in terms of just like the financial off the shelf, the red tails, wealth boxes of the world. Like they don't cater to the retirement plan market. They're just not built that way. So I feel like there's a tiny little gap there that if somebody could figure out an efficient way to to fill that and give everything someone off the shelf, not clunky, like good interface. Like that would be a home run in my opinion. But we
Yeah, so I was gonna chime in there. We use Wealthbox. Um, just started a few weeks, months ago. Great for our wealth clients, but it is a little bit more difficult for the 401k plan side, adding all the participants in there, having them come in coded wrong. So that's been a lot of background work, and it's very obvious that it's not meant for corporate retirement plans. But other than that, I love it. It's good for scheduling and emails and calling and this and that, kind of a one stop shop. Um, but it's much more impactful and helpful with just the wealth clients.
Yep, that's good to know. I've heard good things about Wealthbox. Um, but I'm interested. I mean, if Josh's system can kind of incorporate CRM like functions into the other stuff that it does, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah. I don't know where he's at. I mean, we've talked about it at length. I mean, it helps that, he and I live like a mile from each other, so see him quite a bit just out and about. But I think he's trying to do that. I won't pretend like I know the lift and the requirement from development perspective to like make all that stuff work and work well. But he's a little bit of a perfectionist too. This is like his personality. So I suspect if he does end up rolling that out, he's going to do it intentionally and it will be functional before he starts doing that. But I know stuff that we've talked about is like task management, tracking like almost like project management of bringing a new plan on board, like work, like how we use Redtail, like we use workflows and other things like that to kind of go through those processes, make sure the team's kind of in sync on that. Um, and he's trying to build that out specific to the retirement plan market. So I don't know if he goes as far as like going full blown CRM, but I think that's like on his radar at some point because he sees the same opportunity that we do. It's like there's a lot of great private wealth, individual client type of solutions. There's not a lot of great solutions for plan advisors. And it's easier to have that all in one place. Like his challenge is going to be that, guys like us using Salesforce, Wealthbox, Redtail, now we're going to have to subscribe to a different system and run two CRMs concurrent to each other. Like, I don't, that would be the challenge that I would see with it. Is like if somebody does create it, but it's more specific to retirement plans, now you have firms that do both. You kind of have a little bit of a challenge on your hands of like getting them to want to buy both systems.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know. Oh, we're on the consumer side, so those are problems that people like him will have to deal with. But I when I think about it, I'm like, I wish we had it, but it would be nice if the existing players in the market would just build it. Salesforce we know is not because it's a fully customizable system. So if you want it, you just build it yourself. But like the Red Tails and Wealth Boxes of the world, I'll be curious to see if they ever make an effort to add those things.
Mm-hmm. What one thing I've been trying to figure out is my conference schedule for next year. Do y'all attend retirement conferences? Do you have any that you think are better than others?
Traditionally, the only ones that we've been a part of were just the Napa conference, and then I didn't go last year because I had my wife and I were having a baby, but I'll probably go this year. The non-qualified one is intriguing. Like I've heard good things about it. We haven't gone to that. It's another Napa based conference. We don't do a ton of others just because like I haven't been to like Viking Cove yet either, but I've heard that's a pretty good one as well. So um I don't know. I know people that go to a lot of them. I just don't know how valuable they are because I haven't experienced them myself. I thought the 401k summit was good. My experience with it, but that's really kind of limited. on what I participated in.
Yeah, I think I've been to two Napa and I think it's so huge that it is kind of what you want to make of it. I mean, it's
Yeah.
a, it's so many people, so you can try to meet up with someone there and struggle. Whereas with the content is definitely good, like, you know, all the who's who. So the other thing would be RPAG. I go to generally each year, which is really, it's smaller, it's nice, it's at a great resort, which makes it easy and worth it to me. But there's another one, the Institutional Investor Retirement Plan Conference. I don't know if y'all have heard of that, but that I just got in my email last week. So I'm trying, I can't go to a conference every month. I got kids. So I'm trying to figure out which ones to prioritize.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I'm curious other people's feedback and others that they've been to, but I think there's a ton out there. I used to go to a lot more conferences, and we've kind of like limited our schedules on that just to not, it's expensive, it's a lot of travel, tough with family too, and being out of town all the time. So I don't know that I haven't been compelled to go to any of the others yet, but I'd be curious if there are others out there that people go to. Be all ears.
Mhm. Good. Well, we had a small but effective group today. I don't know if y'all have any other topics y'all want to touch on.
Have any of you been to the Viking Cove conference?
Yeah,
When it,
I've been.
yeah. When is that?
February 27th
Okay.
to March 1st, I believe.
And where is it held?
La Costa, the Carlsbad.
Okay.
Oh,
Mhm.
it's a good one.
Yeah.
Been to a different
Especially
conference there.
that time of year.
I'll definitely send the invite around to you guys. Get you
Cool.
guys some more info.
Thank you.
Um,
All right. Well, I'm gonna sign off, guys. I appreciate the time today. Good to talk to you guys, and we'll see you next month.
Awesome. See everyone.
Thanks,
All right.
everybody.
See ya.